And we are officially live this 8 a.m. Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It never seems to start out exact 8 to 8:05 time range. Hopefully everything is streaming the way it's meant to stream, and we have no latency issues, and everything is going to be perfect because we have an amazing show planned out for today. I'm sure everybody has listened in and read, and it's all over the airwaves, whether it's on YouTube or mainstream media, which is the latest tweets and comments by the president, by Donald Trump. And so this is exactly what we're planning on talking about today. And we're going to go through and really dig in and analyze the tweets. And it's interesting because as I was listening in yesterday to a number of people talking about it, nobody really took the same approach that we're going to take today. So I'm kind of happy about that. Everybody uncovered quite a bit when it came to these tweets from Trump. But today we're going to dig in further, and we're going to come out with a much better understanding. So be prepared to comment, be prepared to participate, and let's get ready. Let's get into it. Before I get started, I definitely want to acknowledge espresso. So make sure you guys grab whatever drink of choice you have, whether it's a coffee drink, it could be espresso, it could be regular coffee, it could be whatever you want. So yes, we will start out this segment talking a little bit about the Yeti coin, because I think we're going to see some big things come out of the Yeti coin organization. And Yeti coin is going to be very meaningful. So look out, Libra, because Yeti coin is the one and only. So for all those Yeti maxis out there, Yeti coin maxis, forget about anything that you've heard about, whether it's Yeti value, I think it is. It's YYV. And that was somebody talking about, I think that was WB came out as making claims of being the original Yeti Nakamoto. But I can tell you that is definitely not true. And then there was a big fork by Auburn Rain where he took Yeti coin and moved it into Yeti Baby. So, we're not about that at all here. So, all right. Let's let some people stream in or log into the stream. So we're not going to talk all about Yeti coin. Don't worry. We're going to talk about some good things today. Bertina, how's it going? Good to see you on. Jay Hyatt. Good to see you on. It is early on a nice, warm, humid Saturday morning over here. So, all right, let's see what can we what great things can we talk about before we get in depth into today's topic, because today we do want to talk about Donald Trump. I also want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing from mainstream, from Main Street. I do want to talk a little bit about HR 1361 because I think that's important. And there's been a number of articles that have popped up regarding a committee that's being formed, an investigative committee that's being formed, both for the Senate as well as for Congress, to look into the terminology of blockchain technology. So obviously that's a step forward. We want to see some bigger step forwards within Congress, within Senate. But I also do believe that we saw something pretty amazing that just took place here this past week. So let's talk a little bit about that while we're waiting for a few more people to join in. And this has to do with Blockstack. So if you guys have heard about Blockstack, I think this is a pretty interesting development today. So, hey, Carl Lewis, what's going on? Mike G, good to see you as well. The Miami Dolphins moving into the acceptance of Litecoin. So I think that's going to be interesting. I don't know much more about that other than they're making that their official digital asset. So that's going to be something that we need to investigate a little bit further. I don't know why this guy is talking here. Let me shut Powell off. We don't need to hear him anymore. So awesome. Yeah, in regards to espresso, no, you can't put anything in it. No milk, no sugar, just straight Just straight coffee. That's the only way to do it. Lego. Okay, block stack. Block stack has to do with Lego. Yep. So, all right, so here we go. And this is actually, so let me talk just a second on espresso because I think it's really, really important that you get the right espresso. Now, I was traveling earlier in the week and I was looking everywhere for a quality espresso. And Starbucks, not quality, but is always a make do if you have nothing else to drink. Now, this line at the hotel for Starbucks was out the door. It was absurd. It was like 7 a.m. and I said, forget this. Just got done working out. I'm not waiting in line. There's a coffee shop around the corner. So I get to this coffee shop. It was the most sterile coffee shop I think I've ever been into. Marble floors, marble walls. There was the barista center in the middle, and the coffee was just so-so. It wasn't the greatest, but it was okay. So I sat there, drank the espresso, and then I was on a mission to find something to eat at that point. And the hotel just, it was a decent hotel. It was a Hilton hotel. The food just didn't look appealing. So, but always on a mission for good espresso. So, and let's see here. What do we have? Who just popped in from Turkey on holiday? Scarbato Sun, all the way from Turkey. How's everything out in Turkey? I'm sure, 100% certain you're getting good coffee in Turkey. There's amazing coffee out in Turkey. So no worries for you over there. That's for sure. So, all right. So what we're going to talk about here, just momentarily, I want to touch on the fact that Blockstack, and I've talked about Blockstack before, but Blockstack is interesting because they worked with the SEC to launch the very first regulated coin issuance. And this is important because they're selling regulated coins. This started as of Thursday. So a couple days ago, the SEC granted approval. Now, this was on foxbusiness.com. So this wasn't on CCN. This wasn't on Cointelegraph, all the normal places that we would expect to go to find important news on digital asset, on the blockchain space. Mainstream adoption, mainstream focus, those things go hand in hand. And so as we begin to see this ramp up, as we did, if you think back, end of 2017, going into 2018, there was a massive ramp up in news coming out of mainstream, focused on the main street, which is retail investors. Now here, what's significant about this move with Blockstack is that they worked with the SEC, and the SEC gave them permission to issue a digital asset in an ICO like launch. And so what they ended up doing was offering, and the SEC approved, a $28 million offering through something called Regulation A+. Now, I think this is interesting because as we go through this article, the Regulation A+ is actually a provision that allows companies to pursue early funding. And that's without full disclosure, but this means early funding, and it can be launched to anybody. So there's no limitation in terms of, normally you do an early launch like this, and you can't, the Main Street retail investor, can't buy, and so you have to be an accredited investor. So this is definitely a significant development forward. Now, what is also interesting about this is that Blockstack chose to go down this path. Now, obviously, they could have launched, in other parts of the world. They could have said, forget about it. We don't want to do it. It's so significant that they're working and setting a precedent. And so we've talked about setting precedent before, and this is definitely a precedent in working with the SEC to launch an IPO-like or an ICO-like offering. And so under Regulation A+, they're allowed to launch and raise up to $50 million from investors. And that's over a 1-year period. And so that's from everybody, non-accredited as well as accredited retail investors. So it really changes the dynamics of what's what's possible. So I definitely like that. I think that was something important that we need to focus on and we need to emphasize because with the movement in this space, we're gaining more and more focus, more and more attention, and obviously, we're seeing a significant amount of focus and attention right now in Washington, and so as we have seen in other parts of the world, and so right now the key here, and is it the impetus? Is it not the impetus? I don't know. But the Facebook Libra has definitely brought significant attention in this direction, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. So, Dan Ski, what's up? Coffee is good, especially early in the morning. Well, late at night as well. If you have espresso after dinner, it doesn't hurt. Graham Robson, what's going on? Good to see you on. Spanish Fly, good to see you on. And then we've got Digital Clout here. Let me see here. Carl Lewis, J.I., please note I'm not a financial, coffee advisor. I should make that statement, Carl. You're right. That's important. I'm not providing any form of coffee advice. So you drink what you want, whether it's caffeinated or not caffeinated. I'm not giving you any advice whatsoever as to what kind of coffee you should or should not drink. How's that? Mr. B, good to see you on. We've got XRP Angel Connie as well. Geo XRP. All sorts of people popping in. Look, definitely like that. So if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Jeff with the HODL Report, and you guys are on the HODL Report. So this morning, we have a ton of great things to talk about. I'm glad to see everybody on. And let me see here. I'm going to scroll to the top because we've got, let's see, who do we have that just popped in here? Here we go. Okay, first one on. Before we get moving forward here, as always, I know I missed this last time because the person that popped in first, for some reason, I couldn't send it out. But let me see here. We've got Jay Hyatt 139, and I'm going to shoot some free XRP your way. And I know I've got you here. I thought I had you here. Not seeing you here. Yeah, I've got something talking in the background again. Hang on a second. I hate all of these tabs. They pop up, and now they automatically play video. And there's no way to shut the video down. Hang on a second. Let me see if that was the... there we go. That's annoying. All right, let's go back to the chat here. We're going to get into this, I promise. All right. We've got Jay Hyatt 139, and I've got to find you on Twitter. Throw your Twitter in here, and I'm going to shoot you over some XRP. How about that? There you go. Twin Pop. All right. We've got you now. Here we go. Twin Pop 14. Bam. See that? And there we go. There we go. Free XRP on your way. One day that'll be worth something. All right. So let's get into this. So we've got, how many people are on the stream right now? We've got enough people to have a good conversation. Let's put it that way. So let me go back to my phone over here. So I always like to monitor, make sure we're not getting any delays or anything like that. So awesome. Look how fast that is. Can you imagine? Bam, just like that. Sent the XRP and you got it. And that's just unbelievable. Hey, Graham, really appreciate that, man. It was funny. The other day I went back and started watching some of the original videos. And I'm like, oh my God, it takes a lot of time, as coming out of a comfort zone, making these videos. And I do, I have made videos for work as well. But, coming out and really trying to think about, providing something of significance and something, important to talk about, is a little bit more difficult. And, and then it was funny. I probably talked about this before from the live stream perspective. I haven't made a lot of regular videos in a while. And I really liked those 5, 10, 15-minute video segments. I like watching those. I liked making them, but the live stream is so much more engaging. It's more rewarding, and one of the things that I looked at, and I was having this conversation with somebody the other day as I was trying to help them get set up with a YouTube channel. And I was saying, you know what, from my perspective, my growth cycle in terms of the outreach, the subscribers, and, was at a faster clip, when I was throwing out videos, because you get more people that have a narrow focus or a shorter focus. They have 5 minutes, they might have 10 minutes, but that's typically the typical video. On the live stream, though, it's so much more engaging, from my perspective as well, and what you can learn from it. I like learning from, people, and it's just following the chat, following the stream, is so interesting. And then you kind of build up these relationships with people, and understanding kind of how people think. It's just so much different. That's what I find is, the reward of being able to live stream. And it was my son's friend one night that pushed me into live streaming, because these guys obviously watch all their YouTube videos, they watch live streams. And the first night that, I told my son and his friend, I said, that's it, I'm going to set up and do a live stream. And his friend said, well, you got to do it right away. You can't wait. I said, well, I'm not prepared for a live stream. He said, it doesn't matter. Just put Q&A with the HODL Report, and people will come on and they'll ask you questions and you can answer them. And so obviously there's a little bit more, planning that goes into it. You want to have something, something good to talk about and know what you're talking about, before you do it. But what a difference, and so is, my son's 10-year-old friend that pushed me into live streaming, and it's awesome. So Carl with his quips. See what happened? I just saw something. So there was one of those up on YouTube yesterday. I don't even think I could find it. It was really funny, about wives, the wives that you need. I don't think I could find it right now, even if I looked for it. But it popped up either last night or this morning. I don't. It was real. No, that's not it. I don't even know how I would find it now. It was something that popped up. They have. You can put the still photos, the still images on YouTube. Yeah, there's no way I'm gonna find it. So, but it was along those lines. It was kind of funny. So, all right, cool. So let's move on. Let's go into the here. Hang on a second. SBI. I haven't seen. There's been so much talk, Graham, about SBI going live. And I really haven't seen, much going on from there. So I don't know. I think I'm kind of in the dark. I think the best person to give us feedback on what's going on over there would be Crypto Eddie. And she seems to have a pretty good pulse on what's going on the ground. So hopefully she can uncover and provide us with some updated info on that, soon. Yeah, maybe before we see, some of the major mainstream, outlets reporting on it. Somebody posted a response from SBI VC saying they were going live. We hear so much of that, but, I think, the key is, and there's nothing, I don't think there's a specific date. And people are going to say things, whether it's accurate or not. Now the thing is, there could be rumor, there could be discussion, without a hard date. And I think, when it comes down to corporate launch or bank launch or whatever it might be, the dates are movable. They're going to launch when they're ready to launch. And I think that's all that matters, and so from their perspective, they want to make sure that they get it perfect. Grant, Crypto Eddie left a cryptic message on Brad Kimes yesterday. That's interesting. What was the message, if you have it? Okay, so let's stay tuned. I know next week is going to be a critical week for digital asset, and the reason why I say critical week is because on the 16th we have Facebook getting dragged in front of the Senate. On the 17th, we have Facebook getting dragged in front of Maxine Waters' Financial Services Committee in front of Congress, and this bears focus. This bears attention. And the reason why we need to pay attention to what's happening is because we're still looking for a methodology of regulatory clarity. The Facebook Libra coin has drawn, and the way I look at it, whether it's positive or negative attention, it's attention, and that's what matters. The thing is that, and we were talking about this a little bit yesterday on Rain's stream last night, but with what is happening right now with the Libra coin, and the fact that nobody is trying to shut it down, to come right out and say, and Trump could have said that in his tweets, the Senate could say that, instead of dragging him in front of a Q&A board in front of Congress, they could come out and say, you know what, the SEC, slap Facebook, say that they're not allowed to issue a currency, a digital asset, but they can't say that. And the reason why they can't say that is because the precedent is already set on the ground, and you can't single out Facebook at this point and say, hey, Facebook, you can't have a digital asset, but hey, Bitcoin can exist, or XRP can exist, or Ethereum can exist, or one of the many others that are out there can exist, but Facebook, sorry, just because we have concerns over privacy issue with your social media platform, you're not allowed to have a digital asset, and that doesn't fly. So I think what we're seeing also is that from a government level, whether it's in the United States, the banks have zero authority over what's happening. We've learned recently this week that the Federal Reserve has zero authority over what Facebook is doing. So this falls into the hands of Congress. The SEC has really no guidance over what they're doing because they're not really creating a new, they're not creating a new currency, so to speak, to compete with the U.S. dollar. What they're creating is a platform to provide a payment solution. They're entering the payment sphere. They're not saying we're creating an everyday currency. So I think that's important. Now, could it be used? Obviously, it could be. But the main currency in the United States, as the main currency in Europe, or the main currency, is still going to be the country's own currency. And so in the United States, obviously, it's the U.S. dollar. Obviously, in Europe, it's the euro. And you're not going to, at least in the interim for right now, in our lifetime, that we could foresee that nations are going to forego their rights to manage their own currency. Now, are they seeing that Facebook could potentially step on those rights, because it does say that nobody can mint their own currency? Now, Facebook isn't necessarily, again, their primary objective isn't minting a currency. Their primary objective is to provide a faster payment solution, which is exactly what they talked about under the Faster Payment Task Force, and was exactly adhering to the same principles of what that report from 2016 specifically stated, which was, we need a faster payment solution in the United States to provide transparency, to provide a more economical means of remittance payment, and something that's more efficient, meaning immediate transfer of money. Taking it out of the hands of those that are gouging individuals by charging 10 to 30% for those transactions. And so that's really what it's all about. It's about this payment space. It's not about necessarily the minting of money. And this is why they can't shut Facebook down at this point, because they're creating a payment solution. They're creating another company. Now, they have some concerns over privacy. Now, the smartest thing that Facebook could do from that perspective, again, not saying I agree with them or not agree with them, I'm just pointing out this fact that the smartest thing that they can do is segment out this Libra into Calibra. If Calibra then becomes the organization, the entity, which is what it looks like it probably will be, and then this Calibra organization, I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but it is going to be housed internationally, so their main base of operation will not be the United States for Calibra, and they're going to be in a more friendly nation based on regulatory, based on government regulation to blockchain, to digital asset based companies. So I think there's a lot more involved, and that's why when we look at it as a whole, I think there's there's really more to this, and that's why it's so important that we now dig into what Trump said, because there's been a lot of negativity that's surrounded it, and I've yet to see anyone really pick out the very specifics. So hey, I just wanted to just to make a note that we've got our Chilean brother on XRP Minute just logged in. We've got DNI just logged in, streaming all the way from the Finger Lake region, or not the Finger Lakes, the Great Lakes region in the Midwest, all the way from Michigan. So welcome DNI, welcome XRP Minute. Really good to see you guys on. Definitely, if you guys haven't, I'm sure you guys all have, but check out DNI. He streams every day at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and typically out of Thailand. And for the time being, he is in the United States. And then we've got Chip from the XRP Minute on vacay over in Chile, and he's joining us today. So let's see. Waters didn't like that Facebook's Libra arm would be based in Europe. Meanwhile, the House has the token taxonomy bill waiting to come out of committee. That's true. As you guys have known, as I follow the Token Taxonomy Act, it got basically delayed or crushed and pushed back due to the whole issue with the Libra coin, and Maxine Waters was about to push everything through. So we were about to see the Token Taxonomy Act go through committee, and it was going to come out of the Financial Services Committee, move onto the floor of Congress. I believe, actually, from a timing perspective, it was still too early. So I'm actually glad that things have unfolded the way they have. And maybe, DNI, we could, really look at this from the perspective that things are playing out as though they were meant to play out this way. So if you look at it from this perspective, that had the token taxonomy hit the floor of Congress a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, many members within Congress are still not engaged in the conversation. Many members of Congress are still not there yet in terms of their understanding of digital assets. And obviously we have people like the Shermanator, who is very anti-digital asset, very anti-crypto. The one thing that we see now with Libra, the Libra coin, has really brought attention and focus onto the floor. And Jay Hyatt, yes, now they're forced to educate themselves. One of the agendas, one of the incentives that we were trying to do and really work with Warren Davidson's team and we had provided a video to their team and try to get some talking points to them as they educated other staff members from other congressional representatives, as well as other congressional representatives. Now, I find it very interesting that when we watched Ayanna Pressley speaking, hey, Edward, what's going on? Good to see you on. Dansky slid in here as well. So when we watched Ayanna Pressley speak, it was so amazing that her conversation, her talk track was identical to the talk track that Warren Davidson's team has been trying to educate other members of Congress on. Now, she was very, very specific on faster payment. She was very, very specific on the need, and the terminology that she utilized was very similar to the same terminology that we all utilize when we discuss Ripple and RippleNet. So obviously, the understanding is there. We understand what the Token Taxonomy Act means. Warren Davidson's team understands very well what it means. And it just seemed to me that Pressley was very well informed on this topic, on this subject, whereas I don't think that she was before. Based on the feedback that I got, from, a number of congressional representative teams over there, there was a handful of people that were fighting the fight, and she was not on that original list. So the fact that we know that there's both Democrats and Republicans that have been educating themselves at a furious pace on this subject, take the Shermanator away, because there's nothing that you can say that will ever educate that guy. The guy is just, he's got his head in the sand, and he'll always be in the sand. So I want mine to stay HODL on the front porch. What? So, oh, Presley, yeah. So there's just so many, things that are going on. So now as we move through, what's going on, it just seems like all the pieces are lining up, whether intentionally or unintentionally, but it's happening now. And DNI said, you know this more than I do, but how can one make the act more politically sexy? You attach Facebook to it, and then you create a lot of controversy over it. And then it becomes extremely sexy because now you have people taking sides, you have people talking about it, you have people educating themselves about it. And trust me, there's FOMO and there's FUD within the walls of Congress, because as people want to move up ranks, it's embarrassing, for a congressional team if they don't know about something and yet their colleagues do know about it. You better believe they're going to get on board with it. And if you have a good group and you have one that's led by Warren Davidson, you got to believe that others are going to jump on board with that, and they're going to want to also, whether it's real or not, pretend that they understand. Now, there's a ton of misinformation. The worst thing that can happen is going to happen next week. When they drag Facebook, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg or others, in front of Congress, and you get somebody like the Shermanator saying things that are completely off base and irrelevant and illogical, and just when you dig in and you can tell that they have zero understanding of the technology, they're just going to embarrass themselves more. So there's just so much, that needs to happen, in this case, and it's going to be amazing. Next week is the week. And so all of this is coming together. Now, I haven't forgotten about Trump, because my entire thought process has really been on those tweets from Trump. And we're going to analyze these. And the reason why we need to analyze these is because of the messaging that Trump gave within these tweets, which is really, really important. And so we have to understand, we can never narrowly focus on something in a vacuum. We have to look at, the bigger picture. You have to understand where Trump is coming from. You have to understand how Trump has operated, whether it's, the past couple years as president, his run up to president, and his entire career leading up to that. There's so much important aspect within this. And so I think that's, where we need to go, moving forward. So let me see here. All right, we've got 31 people on the stream. Hey, if there's anybody new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you give some thumbs up. I can't tell. I see 3 thumbs up, but that's because I haven't refreshed. But make sure you give a few thumbs up. If you guys can throw this out on Twitter that we're getting ready to talk about Trump, that would be awesome. I think that would be great. So that would, let's see here. All right. We have got, and by the way, just a little plug. Sunday night, I don't believe that there will be any issue with this, but Sunday night, 8:30, we're going to do another open mic night. So anybody that would like to participate in the open mic night, to open mic night, shoot me a DM on Twitter, and we'll get you on first. And then, we'll open it up to the floor. But I want to keep that as a consistent every Sunday night, as long as I'm in town and I can manage it. We'll do open mic night. So 8:30 Sunday night, Eastern Standard Time, open mic night. Shoot me a DM and let me know if you want to be on first. If I get multiples, we'll set first, second, third. And if this is still on, hopefully I'm going to be meeting DNI in person in the near future. So we'll keep planning on that. And DNI, if we can manage it, I don't know if we will or won't. We do a live stream from on location wherever we are. Maybe we'll meet up in Birmingham or something like that, or Royal Oak, or wherever we end up going. But we'll hook up a live stream. We'll hook up a video, whatever it will be. But it'll be absolutely awesome. So anyhow, let's see here. We've got here we go. Okay. So this was, before we get into Trump, just one more last thing. So HR 1361, I was talking about that before. This is on the House side on Congress, where you have a bill being put forward that is, again, to create a committee to look into digital, into the terminology of blockchain. And so keep an eye on that. Again, when we talk about all the pieces lining up, this is one more piece in the puzzle. How can you have a statement? And obviously, if you read the Token Taxonomy Act, they define digital asset. They define blockchain within some of the bills that have been presented. But how much easier is it if you have a task force that's sole mission in life is to come up with a proper definition of blockchain? Now, how hard is it to do that? This is the idiocy of government at work as a whole, is that you had to have a bill to pass a bill, to have it go through Congress, to have it go through Senate, to authorize a committee that is now going to work on creating a standard definition of blockchain, when they could really just go to the tech people that created blockchain and said, could you guys please give us a definition of blockchain so that we can build this in, and we're going to make that the official definition, and maybe we should just vote on it so that we all agree on this definition because it came from tech. Why is it that they need an actual committee that we're going to now pay as citizens of this country? We're paying for a committee to work for 1 year on putting together this definition when the definition already exists. Doesn't make sense, but yet, in the grander scheme of things, it's moving all the pieces together. It's moving things through. It creates the discussion. Having a committee work for a year is absurd. Again, I think they can have this done probably in 2 days if they really put their minds to it. So that's going to be interesting. So the Shermanator types, that's it. Was that Shermanator types in what's blockchain to Ask Jeeves? I think he types it into Ask Jeeves and then he posts it up on MySpace. Problem is he probably doesn't even know what MySpace is. All right, so let's get it. Let's get focused. Here we go. All right, let's look at Trump. Now, the reason why I can't share anything, I wanted to share my screen. I wanted to pull these tweets up so we could go through them, but I have a glitch within OBS that I haven't figured out, and every time I switch scenes, it sends me offline. So it disconnects my stream, and it happened multiple times over the past week or so, and I've been reading the issues. And I think what I need to do is either update it, which I've been avoiding, because every time you update these software solutions, there's another glitch, or I'm thinking of I have to deinstall and reinstall it, or it's going to be motivations to start using, what did Chip call it, slobs? So I might have to start using slobs over here. Annalise George, welcome. Glad to see you on. You made it just in time because now we're going to talk about Trump. So now we need to really dig through this. So this was my full intent. I planned on spending a lot more time on this, but we had a lot of lead-up discussion that was important. So we need to understand that diversion is Trump's primary tactic. That's his primary intent. So everybody right now is focused on the negative, as usual. But again, there's so much more to his tweets and that's why we need to discuss it. And again, if we want to look at his primary action and his primary strategy has always been to utilize diversion. And everybody always seems to fall for it, whether it's the mainstream media, whether it's Congress. Everyone always focuses in on one part of a sentence that looks negative, and then they gravitate to that. Obviously, there's a bit of Main Street news FOMO, the fear of missing out on getting the story out first, and everyone has to discuss it. Everybody has to overanalyze it, but they all focus in on one aspect that he wants them to focus on. And while everyone's doing that, he's over here doing something completely different and really accomplishing things that you wouldn't be able to necessarily accomplish when you have so much focus and attention. But he throws up the negative. He has done so much to really support as a base, politically speaking, as well as economically speaking, and even in negotiation, whether it's with Mexico or China or all of this. Everyone's focused narrowly on one aspect of it, but they're not seeing the bigger picture. That's what I want to say for that. So my point is that he uses this strategy a lot. So let's look at his first statement. Now, the first statement, he says, let me read it out and then we'll dig into it. I'm not a fan of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which are not money. Now you can look at that different ways, and whose value is highly volatile and based on thin air. So he didn't say I don't like Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies. He said, I'm not a fan of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. They're not money and their value is volatile and their value is based on thin air, which is all relatively true because the value is volatile, has been volatile, and the value isn't necessarily really tied to anything specific. And so we could make that statement. It's not 100% inaccurate, but it's also not 100% negative. So he's saying he's not a fan. That doesn't mean one way or the other. And then what he does, he goes to the next step, and he says, unregulated crypto assets can facilitate unlawful behavior, including drug trade and other illegal activity. So what do we need to focus in on this statement? And I think this is where it becomes very, very important. Let me make sure I have the chat up, while I'm talking about that. So what's that? Let's see. Hang on a second. Okay. If Trump directly supported digital assets, the Democrats will automatically not support it. That's true too. Dan, I think that hits the nail on the head. Beyond anything, is that if Trump came out and supported it 100%, the Democrats would 100% go the other way. All of them would run the other way, and it would destroy all the intent and intention, and it would be such a division because we know that's exactly exactly what would happen. I see that DNI, I don't know if you're still on. I just saw a video pop up here. HR 2558. That's an interesting resolution there too. I think HR 2558 has to do with applying the gold standard. Okay. So let's get back to this. So unregulated crypto assets. So let's focus on that and understand what he means. So to me, the intent is really clear. Again, he didn't come out and say, we need to ban crypto. He didn't come out and say, I don't like crypto. He said, I'm not a fan of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies that aren't money, that are volatile. That's what he's saying. So he's not specifically coming out and denigrating the entire class of digital asset. And he then goes on to say unregulated cryptocurrency can. And now he also didn't say that unregulated cryptocurrency will. He underlines and underscores that it can facilitate, meaning that it has the potential. Just like we can say fiat currency can facilitate unlawful behavior. Cryptocurrency, unregulated crypto assets can facilitate unlawful behavior. Regulated crypto asset can probably also facilitate unlawful behavior. They didn't say that part of it, just like fiat currency can facilitate unlawful behavior. But the point is that he's talking about unregulated. So the key here is that, we really want to then, focus in on the fact of how he's saying this, how he's making the statements, and his diversion tactic. Everyone read this, immediately focused on the negative. So again here, he's looking in on, what does it mean, to have unregulated when in essence he wants regulated. So without regulation, there's intent to facilitate unlawful behavior. Again, let's underscore the can part of it. DNI, unregulated equals not using KYC laws. Exactly. So I think that's also important. So what he's basically saying is we need digital asset regulation. We need regulatory clarity in this space. So gaming crypto, yeah. Logic, maybe I should stop with the logic. I shouldn't use that so much. All of a sudden, Ripple have started feeding XRP with laxatives for regulation. Nice. Okay, so again, when we get into this, I think it's so interesting, and again, let's focus in on everything here. So then he moves on to Facebook. So now we kind of get this idea of of a KYC, of the AML nature of it, the regulation, and he's talking about regulation overall. So an individual digital asset might not be regulated. The space needs to be regulated. You need regulatory clarity. You need to understand how to manage and work with it in the space. Anybody launching a digital asset, anybody using a digital asset needs to understand the dynamics of which it can be applied within our economy. And obviously, we know that there's so much development. Trump understands exactly the meaning of what this is going to have, for the economy. He has to. He's surrounded by the right people. Somebody out there did say that he has the wrong people advising him, which there could be some people that are anti-digital asset advising him. At the same time, I'm positive that there's some people that are advising him the other way. You have Warren Davidson. You have a whole group of Republicans that have been pushing on Congress to pass this. Same thing on the Senate side. We know they're there, so we know that the messaging is rising up, to Trump, and we know who these individuals are. So, all right. So then now let's go into what he said about Facebook, because this is also significant as we move through his statements, and as we roll through this misdirection and what his really intent is. So then he goes on to say, similarly, Facebook Libra's virtual currency will have little standing or dependability. So if Facebook, now this is important, so he doesn't like the idea of what Facebook is doing. He doesn't think it's going to be a major economic windfall. He doesn't believe it's going to be extremely let's just say, it's not going to have a big impact in the space, at large. So then he goes on and says, if Facebook, now underline if Facebook and other companies want to become a bank, they must seek a new banking charter. Now, what have we been talking about, for weeks and weeks and weeks now, is the blurring of the lines between digital asset exchanges and banks. We know that there's a blending happening right now. In order for Main Street and the mainstream adoption, first we need regulatory clarity. Secondly, for people to feel comfortable on the Main Street, on the retail level, investing and putting their money into digital asset, they want to be able to do it through a regulated exchange, meaning that it's backed up by FDIC insurance or other third-party like insurance that is somehow protected, meaning that you put your money there, that if there was ever an issue, that you're going to get your money back if that organization ran into any kind of trouble. That's FDIC coverage, which incidentally, if you put money in a savings account, checking account, whatever, your money is only protected up to $250,000 under FDIC coverage. So so it could be the same. Maybe it's a lesser amount. Maybe they cover $50,000. Maybe they cover up to $100,000 per account. So that then would push you into diversifying where you hold your money into other like backed insurance type exchanges. Now, the significance here of this blending of the exchange to the bank is that the exchanges have identified that there are certain things within society that need a banking environment. Mortgages, loans, interest when you put your money in savings, all of these things that they're working on, they're rolling out to the point where Coinbase is actually looking at creating their own insurance company with AON, which I thought was announced this past week. Also a very important initiative on Coinbase side. But here, so if we look at what Trump is saying, if Facebook and other companies want to become a bank, they must seek a new banking charter and become subject to all banking regulation, just like other banks, both national, and then he goes on. Now, obviously, if you want to be a bank, if you want to act like a bank, you need to have a banking charter. You need to operate within the norms of society. So we're not living in anarchy. We're not living in an environment where the initial Bitcoin maxis said we're going to destroy all banks and everybody's just going to trade on their own in Bitcoin and we're not going to need banks anymore, which is really a false notion because you need a third party whenever there's a business transaction, whatever it might be. Obviously, if we're just trading on the street and I buy something from you, I hand you cash, I don't necessarily need a third party, but someone had to have created that fiat currency, hence we had a third party. Same thing with a digital asset. If I'm using XRP Tipbot and I'm using that, I trust XRP Tipbot to move my money. You trust XRP Tipbot to receive your money. That means that we have a third party involved in our transaction. The concept of strict, peer-to-peer sending still requires a software that someone developed in order to transact that digital asset from one person to the other. Hence, there's a third party. So there is some form of banking. Now, it's not reality to expect that everything is going to be peer-to-peer because there's a level of trust. So in order to establish that level of trust, you need a third party. If I go to buy a house, I'm not going to trust you that when I give you $500,000 to buy this house, that everything's going to work out perfectly. I'm not going to give you $500,000. However, I am going to allow a third party holder, meaning the bank, to then manage my $500,000 and give you the $500,000 when the deed is transacted. Now, obviously, a lot of that can be done automatically at some point when things go onto the blockchain. Right now, that's not reality. But even if it does, someone then had to have built this platform in order to allow the automation process of moving a mortgage from one person to another when payment is completed. And obviously, that doesn't exist right now. So that's an important variable. So banking is needed. Now, when Trump came out and said, similarly, Facebook's Libra's virtual currency will have little standing or dependability. Again, he's not a huge fan of it. However, if Facebook and other companies want to become a bank, and let's underscore this, because he's not saying, Facebook, forget about it. Facebook's crazy. We're going to destroy them. The U.S. government doesn't like it. No, he came out and specifically said, if they want that, now they need to become a bank, which is 100% legitimate for that to happen. Now, the other thing is that we have to identify, and this goes back to when I talked about, and we all talked about, the blurring of the lines between digital asset exchanges or even organizations, entities like a Facebook, getting into banking. It's not that difficult. So we see that, I never get his name right, the founder of XRP Tipbot, Weetzy Wind, creating some, and so they are applying for banking license to have some functional, and I forget which country they're getting their first banking license in over in Europe. Now, obviously, they're creating it from the ground up. They're applying. They want to have banking rights. Now, the thing is, if you get an organization like a Facebook, is it that far-fetched to think that Facebook then going to go out and buy a group of small banks? These guys have billions. Holland, right? Thank you. So Facebook has billions upon billions upon billions of dollars available for them to go out and buy banks. Banks aren't that expensive to buy overall. The amount of money that they have, the amount of money that Coinbase has, the amount of money that Binance has is far in excess of many banks. And so if you want a banking license, what's the easiest way to get it? Go out and buy it. And then find your way to where you're then going to absorb that bank into your organization. Calibra goes out and buys, I don't know, Bank of Massachusetts. I don't know. I'm just making that up. They go out and buy Bank of Massachusetts because it's a small regional bank in Massachusetts. They buy it up. They get signed off on to allow them to buy that bank. All of a sudden, they've got banking charter, banking license. They've got everything that's necessary to become a bank. They apply for it just like Sum's applying for it, just like Coinbase will apply for it, just like Binance America will apply for it, just like Uphold will eventually apply for it. They all will apply to fall into this regulation, this regulatory clarity out of necessity, because that's the right thing to do. That's the way it needs to work. Just like Blockstack, and the reason why we started talking about Blockstack, just like Blockstack went to the SEC to get to get approval to launch their ICO slash IPO in order to raise funds, and they raised $30 million, through, or they can raise that, up to $50 million over the period of 12 months. Very, very important, very interesting, because they went the right way. They went the right way about doing it. The SEC, they look at it and say, okay, this isn't a security. Everything is lined up. They can't shut them down just because. They have to have good, rational reason as to why they're not going to allow them to move forward. Just like Facebook, the government realizes that if they decide to apply for bank licensing, they can't shut them down. If they can't prove anything, they can delay. They can attempt, but at the end of the day, Facebook can then go to wherever, Switzerland or somewhere else, and start getting banking license. And maybe they don't offer banking in the U.S., but they'll offer banking somewhere. But the key is, again, from what Trump was saying, they must seek a new banking charter. Again, he's not saying we're going to destroy it. That doesn't exist. We don't need them. He's specifically stating if they want to move in that direction, do it the right way, get a banking charter, and then you can bank just like everybody else and let everybody operate on a level playing field. You can't circumvent the law, is what he's saying. So again, not negative. He's coming out and making a clear statement that A, we need regulatory clarity because we need regulation in the space. B, if you want to operate as a bank, you need to have banking license and you have to do things the right way and be regulated like a bank. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're going to start thinking like a bank and acting like a bank and promoting yourself like a bank, then you need to have and become a bank. So then, all right, now let's go to the next one. Now, this is also very important. Let me see here. Make sure I got my thoughts in order. I was bullet pointing everything. Okay. So he's basically saying how you get normalcy and mainstream adoption. I think that's an important statement that I wrote down. Now, let me see. Did you miss? Okay. Then, okay. So then he finalizes with something that is very important. The last statement that he finalized with, I think, is expected. It's needed. And at this point, he's identifying we need regulation. We've talked about that, that Bitcoin and that space and digital asset, cryptocurrency needs regulation. If you want a bank, you have to be a bank. Now, here's the key of everything. And this is where he comes out and he says national identity is important. That the United States is going to have to maintain their dominance over their own currency. But he made a huge statement here. He didn't say fiat currency. So this could easily be a digital version of the currency. It could be a Bitcoin-backed version of the currency. It could be a gold-backed version of the currency. It doesn't really matter. What he came out and stated here, which is important because it shows our dominance as far as the United States perspective. Again, you're in other parts of the world, not meaning to, belittle the contribution of other countries to the world. But from Trump's perspective, that, he said in this last statement, we have only one currency in the USA, and it is stronger than ever, both dependable and reliable. Now, that's 100% accurate. We do have one currency in the US, and it is reliable. It is dependable. It's been dependable for a long time. And then he goes on and says, it is by far the most dominant currency anywhere in the world. Again, 100% true statement. As it stands today, it is the dominant. It is the trade currency. It is the reserve currency. So it is the most dominant. It will always stay that way. It is called the US dollar. So again, he's not stating that it has to be a fiat currency. He's stating that the dominant currency in the world will be the United States dollar. From a national perspective, this is what you expect and anticipate the leader of your country to say. If you think any other way that the leader, and it can be printed on demand, right? And that's part of the issue. But let's not even focus on that. The expectation from the leader of your country is that he is going to come out and specifically say, that you're the strongest. We're going to be the strongest. We're going to be the most reliable. You can rely on us. You can trust us. We're going to be the most dominant because we have been. We're going to continue to be the most dominant. And we're not going to allow a Libra coin or any of these other digital assets to replace the US dollar, because the US dollar is always going to be number one. He didn't say anything about payment. He didn't say anything about remittance payments. He didn't say anything about transfer, nothing about that. He didn't say anything about how do you move dollars in a dependable, fast mechanism. That's not the intent here. The intent is, here's what I believe needs to happen in the digital asset space, but the US dollar is always going to reign supreme. But he has to say that. That's an important statement for him to make. So, and really now as we move forward, you know, why did he tweet it and why now? Motivation. That's a great question. You know, I think the timing was interesting. So the timing of all these statements are interesting. And that's why you wonder, is everything, you know, aligned a certain way? Is everything predetermined in terms of how they're rolling out the information? Why is it that Jerome Powell was up and speaking in front of in front of Congress the very same day, you know, Trump is making these types of statements? You know, so I think that's really important. Hang on. See if he can see you. I'm sure they can see you. Hang on a second. Let's see. There you are.
Hello.
Want to say hello?
You should subscribe and like.
We appreciate that. Let's wake up. Oh. All right. So, all right. Let me go to some of these comments and we're going to go back to it. Hang on. Every currency ever created has seen its demise. Yep. What will that do? Wait a minute. What will that do in all the movies without fiat? I want 1 million in unmarked XRP. That's funny. Little HODL. Yeah, I want 1 million in unmarked XRP. That'd be hilarious. That'd be kind of funny. Here's your, you bring up a suitcase and you take out your phone, or you know, you're gonna have the ledger. Hang on a second. Yeah, HODL Jr. Oh, hang on a second and let me get my laptop out. But you already see a lot of that when they're transferring money anyways. It's always like, I'm going to send you $1 million to your bank account. And you always see them on their little device. And all of a sudden the money shows up. That's the funniest part, right? When they do those bank-to-bank transfers. And there's always the criminal element. And they're like, oh, I'm going to send you the money. Oh, I got my money. How unrealistic is that? It's much better when they, send over the briefcase and it has $1 million in it. Oh, I've got $1 million in unmarked fiat. I like that. It's hilarious. Let's see. Hang on a second. Jay Hyatt. They have Facebook being brought out on the carpet next week. Yep, and that's another reason for it. I think we're setting the stage. And I know DNI talks about reading into the progression of activity, but they're definitely setting the stage. And this it all seems way too contrived, to be, just happenstance. So the fact that all of this is happening, when it's happening, how it's happening, I think is really interesting. So let's see. Now that the Dems think that Trump hates cryptocurrency, they will rush to pass the Token Taxonomy Act. That's probably another part of it. Trump never does anything exactly. That's exactly it, Chip. That's the perfect statement. He never does anything off the cuff. Everything has a strategy behind it. And that's exactly how they all read into it, is that he was negative on it, even though when we look at it, he wasn't really negative on it. It's just a spin on words, but they're all going to fall for it because they're not going to go and try to analyze it. They automatically think the worst of him. So you throw a little negative statement in there and it's such a draw. It's such a pull. You bait that hook, that little bit of bait, and they always jump on the bait because they want to think the worst of him. They don't like him and, and all of that. So, Chip, how about those old movies when they have to keep the bad guy on the phone to trace the call? They didn't have caller ID when you're on your phone, right? You're on there and then they got their thing. Oh, it was 29 seconds. You had to keep him on for another second. We could have had him. That's a hell of a strategy. Yo, Rob Cash, what's up? Good to see you on, man. Good to see you on. If you guys haven't checked out Rob Cash, Rob Cash makes some outstanding videos. Rob Cash was on our video as well, and as was Chip when we sent that out to Warren Davidson's office. So that was absolutely awesome. All right. So let's see here. XRP. If people want to understand Trump, just read The Art of the Deal. Good point. That's a good one. I started reading it. I hadn't read it. My wife read it multiple times. So now I get this book. It's so hard for me to read a regular book. I always have my my Kindle everywhere I go. And now I'm reading this book and the pages are all messed up. But I'm reading The Art of the Deal, and it's easy. It's an easy read. It's really an easy read. So now what's interesting, let's go into this power struggle. So I know I'm a little bit over an hour, but we got to do it because there's more information here when we dig into the power struggle that's also going on. So I think, when we look at, hang on a second. So when we look at, again, what Federal Reserve Chairman Powell was saying and the statements from Congresswoman Presley, again, about the Fed having zero authority over the payments and none over the Libra coin. But then also, Powell came out the same exact day making a statement that Bitcoin is a store of value, that Bitcoin isn't a currency, basically, that there's really no use case other than being a store of value. Now, what I wanted to bring up, because this is where we see the other side of it, and I think this is an interesting debate that we can break it down. That I'm not saying I'm in any way, shape, or form smarter than what these guys are saying here, but this article on CCN, the title of it's "Bitcoin is Money." Wall Street vet schools Donald Trump after surprise tweet. So this big surprise tweet from Trump. Now all of a sudden, you get the Bitcoin maxis popping up, and they're pissed off because Trump is basically saying that Bitcoin isn't money. Now what they say here is that the Bitcoin maxis immediately jump on it, and they're basically saying that Trump doesn't know what he's talking about because Bitcoin is money. And their big focus is, obviously, Trump isn't that smart because his reasoning is obviously, incorrect. And then they try to make this point that Bitcoin is being accepted across the world as a means of payment. However, the Federal Reserve Chair also came out and said Bitcoin isn't money, that Bitcoin is a store of value. Now, the argument that I want to make is that although there are those within the community that want Bitcoin to be money, Bitcoin isn't really money. And the reason why we can make that argument is because you could say the same thing. Is gold money? If gold is printed as money and on a gold coin, and it's an accepted means of exchange, and it's something that is holding value for something, and the people accept it as that value, and they're willing to exchange all goods for that money, for that gold, then it becomes money. In the case of Bitcoin, how can Bitcoin be money when the majority of people in any retail space won't accept Bitcoin on exchange for product? It might be, if you're using like Ohio, what is the interface that you're using? Ohio is basically saying, we'll accept Bitcoin to pay your taxes. However, Ohio doesn't accept Bitcoin. Ohio is not going to hold Bitcoin. They're using a third-party solution where you provide Bitcoin, Ohio gets US dollars. That doesn't make Bitcoin money because Ohio is not accepting Bitcoin in that exchange. Ohio is accepting US dollars. You're just using your Bitcoin. I'm exchanging my stock. I'm selling my stock. I want to give you a Facebook stock to buy something. Is Facebook stock money because it has value? It's worth $200 and something a share. So I want to buy something from you with my Facebook stock. You're going to say you're crazy. I'm not accepting your Facebook stock. I'm going to accept money. I want US dollars. Okay. Well, I'm going to go through my stock exchange. I'm going to sell and transact my Facebook, and then my stock exchange is going to send you US dollars. It's not money. And so that's the incorrect assumption. So I'm not as smart as some of these guys over there that are parading around Wall Street, these Bitcoin maxis, making a statement that Bitcoin is money, because in order for it to be money, the bottom line, in order for it to be money, is that all parties will accept it. And I think, can't thumb this up enough. Appreciate that, Gaming Crypto. So, as much as people want to anticipate, or as much as these Bitcoin maxis are going to make statements that Bitcoin is money, doesn't make it true. And the fact that they attacked Trump on it, to me, shows a little bit of concern, from their perspective. So if everybody has trended to this point, everyone talks about Bitcoin being gold. Charlie Lee talked about Bitcoin being gold and Litecoin being silver. There was that initial anticipation that Bitcoin was going to replace money, replace banks. We've already shown that that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in the near future anyways. It's just not possible. Having digital asset as a bridge currency, the one primary concern that everybody brings up is, what's the value of Bitcoin? Well, it's $11,800. What was the value of Bitcoin yesterday? It was $14,000. What was the value of Bitcoin at the beginning of the year? It was $3,600. What was the big value of Bitcoin? And so why would you accept Bitcoin? I'm selling a product. If Bitcoin is going to fluctuate and be so volatile, I'm not accepting it. If I don't accept it, it's not money. That's it. That's the end of it. So I think, can it be used and transacted as money? Sure. But the one missing element, just to finalize and put the cap on this, is that in order for it to be money, all parties have to accept it as a means of exchange of an expected value, consistent value, and be viable. And that's what Trump was saying about the US dollar. So if we go back, and you go back and read what Trump said, and I think this is, again, where you need to underline and underscore when he said that the US dollar is dependable and reliable. Of course it's dependable and reliable because it has an expectation of value. That car is worth $40,000. When I trade that car and I send that car over to China, the car has whatever cost it had. Let's say it was $40,000. The reason why it's selling for $80,000 over in China, in part has to do with taxes that they charge their people. In part has to do with a tariff or whatever. In part has to do with the overinflated dollars that they charge for that good. I know there's some goods that are selling over here for $10,000 that over in China they're selling for $30,000. In part because of taxes, but in the other part because they're gouging their people and charging significantly more money for the same product. So so that's something that is that's important to identify. I don't know why I was talking about that. Oh, so so in order to buy that good, my point is that there's a fixed expected value of that product, and as a general rule in trade, the reason why there's a reserve currency is the reason why there's a trade currency. Why is it that everybody quotes in US dollar? Is because it is stable and reliable. Forget about what Chip said before about you can print it to infinitum, which we've done, and that's how they've devalued the US dollar. But as the US dollar is devalued, so have all the other currencies in the world, for the most part, have also devalued then, because the exchange rates have remained relatively stable globally for a long time. For a very, very long time. Obviously, we see problems with the European currency. There was a time when the euro was trading at $1.40 per euro. Now it's $1.10. There was a time when the Canadian dollar was trading at 60 cents to one Canadian dollar, at a 40% differential, so it's the other way. So that's important. Those are all the important things that we need to think about. But it is an overall, it's been stable and viable and an accepted means of exchange. Regardless of what anybody wants to think now or in the future or what's going to happen, I'm talking about what's in reality on the ground today. And that's what we have to expect. So the fact that they came out and attacked him on Bitcoin not being money is kind of hilarious, because again, 100%, he was 100% accurate with that. So so that's I think that's the whole picture. And then, you know, again, one of the things that we want to focus in on here after that, let me see if I have it. I didn't pull it up. It doesn't matter. All right. So, here's what I wanted to show. So from a mainstream perspective, you know, how all the mainstream media jump on the negative. And that's where, again, we go back to what we're talking about, where that misdirection is. You know, you have Fox Business, you have CNN, you have local news, local media, whatever it is. They're all in this distraction point, and it's great. You know, I'm loving it. So as an overall, I see it as a net positive. I don't see it as a negative in any way, shape, or form. And I believe that, you know, I've identified that as well from my perspective. You know, that's my take. You know, so I don't know what yours is, but I'm not giving you any advice on how to think about this whatsoever. I'm not telling you to drink caffeinated coffee over non-caffeinated. I'm not telling you got to drink espresso in the morning when you're watching my live streams, even though I'd prefer that everybody drank espresso. I think it would be a lot better. It'd make more sense. But no. So I'm not giving you any opinion on coffee. All right, let me just bounce up here, and then we're gonna start rounding this out. Let me see here. That's something my kid read off of a popsicle stick. Hang on, what did you read off of the popsicle stick? How did I miss that? Hang on. I need to go back up here. Agree, Jeff. I went to buy a loaf of bread the other day with a $2 coin that I broke in half. She said she wouldn't accept that Bitcoin. Man, always just nonstop with the jokes. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. That's funny though. A $2 coin. That's the toonie. I don't know where you are. If you're in Canada, that's the toonie. You have the loonie and the toonie, right? The loonie is that the loonie or the loon? I don't know. The toonie is the $2 coin, that I know. Let's see. Okay, banks hold money, but Trump says Bitcoin is not money. So what's the problem? Yeah, so there's still that, you know. That's interesting. Once they regulate, then they will have a different definition potentially. They want to bank, they need to bank. I think that's interesting too. It's a good point. Let's see. I'm completely out of sync here now, but you know, which is exactly why other countries are trying to get out from under the US dollar. To an extent, I just want to make a statement on that again, but hang on. If you drink non-caffeinated coffee, do you also drink? That's a good point, too. You need to have a little bit of both. Not non-caffeinated. Caffeinated coffee and good quality beer. So, when you tap the likes, appreciate that, Carl. Rob Cash, you gave me a deeper view of his statements of Bitcoin. Appreciate that, Rob. I think that's important. A little Bailey's Irish cream in the coffee is a good way to start the morning. Good one, Wild Star. That's good. Metzner, the real Michael Metzner. The Dems are probably drinking liberal latte. They like all their foo-foo drinks, I think. You know, they like their lattes with their cinnamon. Wait, I don't want to offend anyone that drinks lattes or anything like that. I like cappuccino every now and then, but espresso is just so much better. It's so much better. So, let's see here. Oh, there was something I was going to make a statement on, and then I got sidetracked. Let's see. I had my money making my bed the other day. Apparently, they were staff from the Working Money channel. Hilarious. Oh, okay. So, which is exactly why other countries are trying to get out from under the dollar. So, let me just make a statement on that. And so this is important, and it's in a kind of an important way, you know, to round it out. Man, how can I not comment on this? Flat white, come on, Chip. Flat white, isn't that like mostly milk? Milk with like a sprinkled dash of coffee on it, or is a flat white like chocolate milk? What is flat white? I don't even know what a flat white is. And actually, if you're drinking it at Starbucks, you probably have to cover up the acidic taste of the Starbucks coffee. Put a little bit of milk in it and make it a flat white. Yep. Libra and the XRP bridge. Victor. Yep. What you mean wine, Rob? What? Okay. The libs love wine. Wait a minute. I like wine. Oh, they love to wine. What's wrong with wine? I like a good Cabernet or a what's that? What is it called? Why can't I think of the name of the it's out of Chile. Come on, Chip, you're in Chile. Uh okay, so let's just focus on this real quick. So, why is it that, let's go back to that statement again. Come on, who's distracting me with the coffee talk? Coffee talk over here. Hang on. Which is exactly why other countries are trying to get out from under the dollar. So we're going to round this out at an hour and a half. And it's going to be hard for people to go back and listen to an hour and a half show. Let's keep it going. So let's look at this. Okay, why is it that other countries want to get out from under the U.S. dollar? To me, at this point in time, why it's so critical to have consistency in trade. You have to have an agreed on currency. So if it's not the US dollar, then what? Right? So the world has agreed on a common business language. It's English. It's not Spanish. It's not Chinese. It's not German. It's not French. The common business language when you travel is English. Whether you go to Saudi Arabia or you go to China, you go to Chile, wherever you go, the common business language is English. Now, I've done a ton of business in Latin America. People are more comfortable speaking in their own language. When they come to the United States from South America, many of them don't necessarily have a great grasp of English, but at the end of the day, they will speak in English. I'll speak in half Spanish, they speak in half English, and we get along infamously. If we go over to China, it's a little bit different. They're going to speak English. Go over to the Middle East, they learn English. They understand that there's a common language. The exact same purpose, and the reason why you need a common language, English became the common language for history reasons that we can get into a large discussion over due to colonialism and all of that. But the point is that countries understood in order to have a common methodology of transaction, you need to be able to communicate with one another. Hence, also the reason why SWIFT was created, if you think about it, having a common banking language in order to facilitate and simplify trade. But having a common currency is also critical because when you quote your product, you need to be able to quote your product in a price point that people understand, and you have to have that commonality. So whether I go to Europe, whether I go to China, whether I go to the Middle East, whether I go to Latin America, everybody's expectation is that I'm going to quote in US dollars. Now, that doesn't mean that the US dollar is the only trade currency, because when you're in Europe and you're working with people in China, you're going to quote the euro. So there are multiple trade currencies. You have the euro, you have the US dollar, and to some extent you have the yen. The yen in Japan, had been a, you have to run. All right, Chip. We'll see you later. Enjoy. Have fun. So there are multiple trade currencies. The US dollar happens to be the largest. And why is it the largest? Primarily because the majority of the trade comes out of the United States. So that's the balance. So for countries to be, antagonistic or feel like they're being antagonized by the US dollar at this point in time in history, there's no other option, and that's going to be the balance, So that's why it's significant. That's why it's important. If another country rises up to where they can show reliability and value of currency, to where you have a majority of the activity working within that country, and it's a stable, valued economy, then people may begin to trade in that currency. The British pound, although very valuable, isn't distributed at the right volumes in order to become a primary trade currency. The euro has issues. Can't be a primary trade currency. And, Chip, Tuesdays, Thursday nights, 10 p.m., and Chip is back and coming to live stream Tuesday at 10 p.m. From the United States, not from Chile. Everybody on the stream, make sure you check out Chip on Tuesday night after DNI, who streams from 9 to 10. So we're looking forward to it, Chip. It'll be great. He has come back from vacation, renewed, revived, and better than ever. And he recently was released from YouTube prison. So, so YouTube is no longer preventing him from live streaming, which is awesome. And he can talk all about that on Tuesday. So, those are the important variables. Now, where does digital asset fall into all of this? This is the significance, I believe, in a trade environment. We talk about bridge currencies. We talk about liquidity. This is the significance that a RippleNet plays in the overall. You still need to have some form of discussion in terms of valuation of product. However, now when we trade, it's easier from a valuation perspective to work through a RippleNet solution when XRapid is fully engaged with the full liquidity mechanism of RippleNet to allow trade to occur. That's the bigger picture. That's the simplification of the process to really then take the United States dollar out of the equation. Doesn't take it completely out of the equation, but it also helps the US dollar be level in allowing us also then to open up more trade in other parts of the world to where their currencies also then have the opportunity to get stronger. So I think that's all really, really important. Now just to round this off, let's see. Dansky, a person that speaks 2 languages is bilingual. 3, they're trilingual. 4, they're quadringual. What are you called if you speak 1? American. That's it. American. It's funny, but you go to Latin America, most people speak one language. They speak Spanish, and then you go to Brazil, they speak Portuguese. Then you go over to Europe, the dynamic shift, and that's where you get the strong desire for national identity over in Europe. You have so many languages. I know my grandmother spoke like 8 languages, and it was amazing. Not all of them strong, but she spoke at least 5 languages very well, and to me that's amazing. I've studied multiple languages. I am bilingual, and I've spoken 2 other languages and studied them, and it's been very, very helpful overall. And I highly recommend that you study Spanish if you want to work in Latin America, and if you want to work in the Middle East, you don't need to study Arabic. You can speak English. Most people do, but it just helps overall to enjoy and understand. So that is come to Straya, we speak gibberish. Gibberish is probably one of the more important languages. Let's see, Chip speaks a little bit of Spanish, enough to get around, and really enough to make sure he got his cell phone out of the bathroom that he left it in. So that's a good thing. That Chip didn't lose his phone in Chile in the bathroom, and he was able to speak to the person and make sure they gave him his phone back. So, you know what? We're coming up on that hour and a half. We had 35 people in the stream right now watching on an early Saturday morning. Appreciate all of you guys. Shout out to Jay Hyatt for getting the free XRP this morning. And that's it for today. So don't forget tomorrow night. Tomorrow's Sunday. So tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. We are going to be doing open mic night. I believe I got one comment here from Jerry Hall. So I believe we're going to be starting the evening off tomorrow with Jerry Hall on the phone. Anybody else you want to pop in, let me know. I'll get you on the list. And then if not, as we're streaming through, we'll try to get some people on the phone as well. Definitely looking forward to it. Again, appreciate everyone from being on. We are streaming here on the HODL Report Monday and Wednesday evenings at 10 p.m., Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sunday evenings, I'm going to start doing the open mic night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, really appreciate all of you guys. Looking forward to seeing you on tomorrow night. And with that, have an awesome weekend. Have a great day today. And D and I look forward to seeing you soon and doing a live stream with you. So that's it. And that's the Boston Harbor, by the way, behind me. So if you ever get a chance to go to Boston, that's what you're going to see. So anyhow, check you guys out later. Enjoy and have fun.